In this video, I'm going to be talking about the mark of the beast and the acceptance or denial of the mark of the beast. It My interpretation of it breaks down a little bit differently than perhaps a theological perspective of it. I wouldn't necessarily say that my view is postmodern, but I look at it by cross-referencing according to synchronicities. Now, I'm just going to cut to the chase and explain my idea of the mark of the beast. The story about the beast in Revelation starts out as one of the heads of the beast having a wound as unto death. Now, the way Revelation deciphers the heads of the beast is as different kings or rulers of like a kind of centralized system, which is the beast. But the way I interpret that is that the several factions of this centralized system are actually our different methodologies that we use in life. Like, take, for example, the 7 chakras. They embody essentially the different aspects of our life that we can utilize, right? Now, the head of the beast that was wounded as unto death, it says the wound then healed. And when the wound healed, the beast began to speak many blasphemies against God. Now, here's an interesting part when it comes to synchronicities, right? In the Old Testament, during the creation story in Genesis, both God said, "Let us make man in our image," and Satan, who came in the form of a serpent in the Garden of Eden, who offered unto Eve the forbidden fruit, he said, like, "Do you not wish to have the knowledge of God?" Like, and that directly is the truth to a degree, because eating of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil is like acquiring the knowledge that you are a God, because we're made in God's image, and then we unlock that part of ourselves. Now, so the idea that I come to with that is that the wound of the beast healing, that is as unto death, is a coming of age, sort of rising to self-awareness and a literal coming of age. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what a coming of age is, it's coming to terms with yourself, not necessarily accepting your outside situation so much, but coming to terms with yourself for who you are and how you need to deal with that, right? So the way I'm breaking down the mark of the beast is that I look at it as though, I believe I said this already, we are all the beast. Like we all have a coming to terms with ourselves. And when we make that transformation process, that's usually when we also find out whether or not we are a good person or a bad person. And it makes a big difference in the big picture. There's a, like, in the long run, there's a large difference between what a good person does and a bad person does after a coming of age. And the way that I process that is that in Revelation, again, the beast had demanded that only all who accept his mark will live. Okay, so this is more metaphorical per se than literal, but it's those who are around you when you come to terms with yourself or have a coming of age moment or like event experience, and it's finalized, then you become differently aware of others as well. And the others as well become differently aware of you, because believe it or not, whether you think that you can keep it from happening or not, there are changes that begin to occur when you come to age. So you could be like one of the worst types of people out there for most of your life, and then have a coming to age and then realize like, oh, like I've gone too far at this point. And then you might lash out and you might try to fight the inevitable, right? And like, this is where a person might end up in jail. This is where a person might even end up getting killed or dying of a disease or making some sort of fatal mistake in their life that disrupts the entire certainty of their reality. And on the other hand, you could be a really productive and good person. You could just be a really good person. Productivity isn't necessarily like the cat's meow here, but like the idea of being a good person your whole life and then having your coming of age, and then you realize, oh, I did things right. I need to strengthen myself in this direction. I don't need to doubt myself anymore, right? And so that's where the transformation process happens, where either you are the beast and you are cast into hell, or you realize that the beast was your doubts and you cast your doubts into that, like, and let it dissipate. And then you are no longer the beast within. And on both sides of the spectrum, the bad side and the good side, there are different ways of accepting it when it comes to other people, right? Like, so if a person accepts the person who has come to age as a bad person, then more than likely they are accepting themselves as a bad person. If the person accepts the person who has come of age as a good person, then they are more than likely recognizing themselves as a good person also. And, I think this adds up because the way the Bible kind of reads out, like especially like during the New Testament, where Jesus is speaking in parables, he wants you to put yourself in others' shoes, right? So that you can comprehend a situation, like a thought experiment, right? And I look at Revelation as one just massive thought experiment inside of like an incredibly condensed book of the Bible, right? And the Whore of Babylon would be like a love interest. The slash, like, whether or not your love interest is overly attached to monetary gain, or whether or not your love interest is according to the fruition of others, right? And it makes a difference. Like, I don't know if fruition of others is necessarily the right way of putting that, but like, if you are only concerned for yourself in terms of like caring for others, then others may or may not respect that. That's not necessarily defining whether or not you're a good person. So like that is more deterministic of how much you trust other people. Like but say in terms of like you only want to gain for yourself by love of others or for care of others, like, then you're not helping others, right? So then it's a lie. You're telling yourself a lie. But if you tell yourself you care about others and you stay out of their way, you keep them happy, like satisfied with your content of your heart and your mind and your character, we don't want to over exemplify ourselves, right? Like we want to just be and let what can just be happen or be I'm kind of twisting myself into a knot here, but the thing is there's a very specific language associated with how this works. And I'm a little bit vague on the terminology, so I'm trying to get it across as best as I can. But if you overinterpret what I'm saying, then it's going to come to a too precise of a point. So like if you take what I'm saying a little bit more vaguely, perhaps, in terms of like this Babylon scenario, then there would be a situation where you either sacrifice yourself for others, or you allow what is to be, right? And It's about avoiding self-sacrifice, actually. That's a clear message across the entire New Testament. Like once Jesus died on the cross, it's to avoid self-sacrifice, because Jesus made the sacrifice, so to speak, and he is meant to return into the framework of everything once everything has reached a stable point enough that everyone is on a level playing field, right? Or everyone's on a coherent balance with each other, so to say. But the point of this video was more or less to explain the mark of the beast, right? And the mark of the beast is your acceptance of yourself as either a good or a bad person, and how you handle that, right? I don't necessarily see the story as a full-out prophecy. It is prophetic, but it's prophetic on a psychological / political level. And it has almost, like, the book of Revelation has almost nothing to do with religion. The book of Revelation has almost nothing to do with what Christians do, right? The book of Revelation is describing the flow of the pattern of where the sinners go, like psychologically speaking, on a mental / physical level, how they apply their psychological understandings of what's going on to the situation they have caused themselves, right? And so it's kind of a really dedicated story of a free-for-all, and last man standing wins, essentially, right? And it's as brutal as that. Like, you can read Revelation, it's terrifying. It's a terrifying book to read. Just like the existentiality of it is just terrifying. It's a wonderful promise if you believe it. It's just in a way, we all have the wound of the beast, if that makes any sense. We are all coming from a place of either internal doubts or internal haughtiness or pride, right? And pride shall fall to humility, and doubts will be either like confirmed as doubts or denied as where you've been, and so it's a very abrupt change to a person's life to have a coming of age moment, right? And so the idea of the healing of the wound of the beast is an actual healing process. The only thing is if you're a bad person and that is the case, then you're shackling yourself. That's the synchronicity I see with Satan being chained and bound and cast into hell. That's like, okay, we gave you time to work out your place in the universe, right? But now is time to accept that, right? And when you're a good person and that happens, you're still kind of you're still kind of in chains and still kind of cast into hell, because those are your doubts, and it really makes a big difference to look at it one way or the other. And the acceptance of the mark of the beast is a sin that way, because you need to accept yourself, but you don't rise yourself above others. No one can be above each other's equal. And if somebody permanently raises themselves above our equal, then they will be chained and bound and cast into hell. It's as simple as that. If we cannot make ourselves above each other's equal, it's just not a feasibility for people. It's something that will do inevitable damage to your life should you keep it that way. There are moments of privilege where you can take on a responsibility of others, but that does not make you above their equal. That makes you all the more equal with them, and you're raising them to your level. Okay, so like the idea is that you are either going to lift others up or others are going to drag you down. And in the end, it's all about who you are.